I think we're live. I think we're on. I
We
think
are
we're
on.
good. Yeah. I'm still getting used to all this. Um, so
Practice
yeah, we'll
makes
wait for
progress.
some. Yeah, definitely. It's
No,
kind
we
of
don't have to wait for anybody. Just jump in, man. Come on, man. Don't wait for anybody.
well, listen, I know what the title says, and we'll get into the title in a few minutes. I did want to briefly go over what your thoughts are on what went on in Jacksonville. I believe it was yesterday with this. I read more about this guy, 21 years old, living at home. He put on a vest and a mask. He sent his manifesto to his parents, to the FBI, and to, I think, the local police there in Jacksonville, and then just went and killed like three black people. And in his manifesto, that's what he was going after. And I'm thinking to myself, what is influencing a 21-year-old kid? And then he shot himself. Okay. So, I mean, what can I say? I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I mean, I say, well, that's a good thing, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, you're not going to learn anything. What led him to this path? Um, and obviously, he's not going to pay a long price. He's gone now. He's done. So, I don't know. It's just I'm wondering. We're seeing more. Are we seeing more and more of this? I think yes. Is it because of social media? Is it because the people have access to read 4chan and these things and get riled up? Because what would make someone have this contempt? And he hasn't even been. There's nothing that happened. Like, he was living at home. It wasn't like he was starving. It wasn't like, I just, it's hard for me when I see these things, and then people get, it's hard for me to understand. It really is hard for me to understand. Not just that, but then knowing that one way or the other, someone is paying the price. It could be you, it could be me walking down the street tomorrow, and someone's pissed off because of this stuff that's going on the internet, and then take one of us out who's just trying to live our life and make it like everybody else. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
It's par for the course. I mean, come on now. Do you think all this hate being allowed to spew all over the fucking place, you think it's not going to spew into real life? I mean, what good can come out of it? And I'm pretty sure, it's safe to say that, the guy had all kinds of, you know, um, I don't know, but I'm speculating that he probably had all kinds of a bunch of red pill ideologies. you know what I mean? All kinds of, things that go along those lines because, guys from those side of town, from that side of town, they don't like minorities either. A lot of them really don't like minorities either. They'll tell you otherwise, but they're fucking liars. They spew their racism, they spew their ideologies, and a lot of people who look like me don't call them out on it. But again, if you're going to allow a such a culture of hatred, such a culture of lunacy without the idea of consequence to flourish, you're gonna have people out here running around thinking that their ideas and their toxic ideas should be empowered. They're gonna run around here believing that they're untouchable. And I'm sure at the end of the day, what I mean, this guy right here, what somebody I would love to know if this guy, whatever they say about him, and the fact that he shot 2 or 3 black people, or I wonder if that's going to be a attack on masculinity. Just want to know that.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
is
and
it,
one of the
is
things.
it masculine to off black people, or is it masculine to off, minorities? Because you see a lot of these red pill motherfuckers, they're real. They talk real tough when you ask. When you ask them questions about women, but when you ask them questions that border the lines of how they feel about minorities, they dance. They do a good dance. None of them really keep it real. They don't really have the guts to. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, I was gonna say, and there's no rhyme or reason, because from what I read, now I couldn't find them. I was looking for the manifesto. I really wanted to read the manifesto to see what, if I could get any insight to what his mindset was, other than, so what I found out was, first of all, he was picked up a few years ago, and I forgot what they called it. It was some kind of, I hate to bring up the mental health thing, but it was something to do with that. But I don't want to make that as an excuse, because he absolutely knew what he was doing. He had, he had a hatred. He shot a lady in a car. Then he went into the Dollar Tree store and shot 2 more people. But then it kind of got weird, because he let people go, even, people of color he let go. So, and then he shot himself. I mean, listen, I'm not expecting it to understand the mindset of this person, but yeah, I really want to know what the manifesto was all about, just to try to, I don't know. It seems, and that's what you're saying. You're saying that through social media, people are finding red pill ideology. I looked at the guy, I don't want to judge, but yeah, it didn't look like he was, the popular kid. I'm judging just off his picture. I have no idea, but it looked like he was kind of like the guy that was going to live in the basement. He didn't have a lot going on, but
I'm pretty sure he goes behind. He's the type of guy who goes behind an anonymous avatar, talks shit to people, all kinds of shit. All these guys just have the same fucking profile, man. And people think I'm bullshitting when I say that men such as that, undesirable men, they're fucking dangerous. They're dangerous. You know what I mean? They're always trying to spew some sort of hatred. They yearn for revenge porn. I've been in spaces where these, where these guys literally wanted these women just destroyed, emotionally destroyed. You know what I mean? And I've seen spaces where, some of these guys say some slick shit about minorities, black people, and nobody checks them on it. Again, the fresh and fit bullshit. You know what I mean?
yeah.
All those racist ideas and so on. That shit was allowed to fly.
Yeah. I find it, and maybe it's a generational thing at this point, but I find, like you said, things that are allowed to slide, that when I was growing up, you knew, like, you don't approach that. That's not something that you really mess with. That's taboo. That's something that, the history between the way history has been and everything, you don't make jokes. I saw this happening in Michigan. It was the craziest thing. I was living in Michigan. I lived there about 8 years, but it was a Halloween, and this is 45 minutes outside Detroit. So it was around Halloween, and I remember I took a picture of this person dressed up. It was a lady, a young lady, probably like 15 to 17 years, and she had like basically a Hitler costume on for Halloween, and I was thinking to myself, wow, are we there? Are we there to where now this? I mean, it just didn't. It felt, even though none of us were around when Hitler was around, it still felt like this is too, maybe because of the movies and everything. I'm like, it still feels like it's too soon, and yet I saw this person that was, 30 years younger or whatever than me wearing this. I'm like, wow, are we there now? Is this now something that you can pull out and say, oh, it's a Halloween costume? So I started seeing some of this stuff creep in 10, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Look, if there's any justice in the world or the universe, all these motherfuckers basically go out just like the fucking shooter. You know what I mean? Just save us all the fucking trouble and the taxpayer bills by offering themselves, because they have yet to prove what actual contributions that they have to give to society other than bullshit and fucking, useless fucking peers. Like, look, either be productive in life or get the fuck out the way. You know what I mean? It's not my fault or anyone else's fault or whatever fault that you don't have the life that you want.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, a guy like myself, people say whatever the fuck they want to say. But after I get off here, you know, I'm living my life. I'm going to work. I'm going to go make my money. And you're going to go argue with your mom about the orange juice that you left in the goddamn fridge. So, you know what I mean? We're not,
she washed your favorite cup.
You know what I mean? You have a curfew, sir. You have a fucking curfew. You know what I mean? There's other men actually out here are doing things productive. We're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to create opportunities for people. You know what I mean? Look, if you're not trying to create opportunities and you're constantly whining about why you haven't got yours, then you, sir, are a parasite. That's it. You're parasitic. And that's it. But anyway.
What's up, Chief Element? Nice seeing you. Hey, anybody who wants to come up, let me know. I can put the link if you don't see the link in there. We're taking anybody who wants to come up and discuss the topics that we're bringing up. You reminded me. I don't think we talked about this on the block, but did you see the video? I think so. I think she sent it to everybody. Did you see the video of the Oklahoma teacher? Yeah, you made a comment about it. The Oklahoma teacher that got drunk. Like the first day of school.
Oh my Jesus Christ, man! They driving these teachers to drinking now. That woman looked like she got a good 30, 40 years on the job. She just like, man, fuck these kids. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And I mean, it was obvious she got some things going on. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you that's not the first fucking time she was drunk in that bitch. You know what I mean? That's probably just the first time they actually somebody said, "Hey, wait a minute."
No, she probably maybe she was on an empty stomach that morning, and because they said she wasn't acting that way earlier on in the day, and then as the day went on, someone noticed. I don't know if the students noticed or another teacher was looking like she's slurring. But it is kind of interesting. I saw some of your comments. It is funny though, like, man, them kids driving the teachers to drink.
Man. Man. These little violent motherfuckers got people picking up bad habits, man.
but
like Jay sent me the shit, and I'm like, what the hell? You know what I mean? And she looks when they zoomed in on her face, I was like, yeah, man, she looks fucking sauce. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
She was that's God.
It goes to show you, it's like everything else I've seen over the years where she probably was going to get released no matter what, right? She's probably going to get fired.
Right,
I mean, I'm pretty sure she was going to get fired no matter what. But it's always worse when you try to hide things and cover up things once you're busted, because she wasn't getting out of that no matter what. And then she tried to say she was drinking at home at 3 a.m. Then it was in her car, and then she had a cup in her classroom, and she tried to and so the principal or whoever was in there with her was like, that's it, you've lied enough, where you going, and they put her to jail. Where if she just would have said, listen, I have a problem, I was listening to what was going on, because they would have let her resign. And if you resign, you have a chance to actually go and get another job. If you're fired, it's a whole different ball game. She had a chance to and I'm sitting there, and it's almost like when I'm watching those shows when people get arrested and they go into the room and they're getting interrogated. I'm like, get a lawyer, don't say nothing. What is your problem? I'm doing the same thing with her. Like, I'm like, lady, just shut up, go home, call your husband. That she didn't want to call her husband. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I want to get a friend to take me home. And the next thing you know, she's going to jail. And I'm like, this could have been so much.
I'll tell you one thing that's it's a reminder of the double standard. That was a guy, they wouldn't even set that dude down. They just fucking call the fucking cops and drag his drunk ass out that bitch. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Anyway, let's get to the topic, man.
Well, I see Mr. Justin's in here. How you doing, Mr. Justin?
What's going on, fellas? Doing all right.
What's going on?
I had some time before my own stream at 11, so I was like, hey, I'll pop in and talk about some stuff.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Yeah. So let's get in on the topic. Do you know how to create the banner?
I could do it. Hold on.
No problem at all. We'll just basically say, why does marriage suck for guys? Okay. Keep that in mind. Real straight and simple. Now, guys, is a safe space. as they say, whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That means you're welcome to cry.
Exactly. Just don't cry on me. Anyway, you know what? I'm gonna share with you a little tidbit. You know, this is a multi-layered situation, but I'm gonna share a perspective with you when it comes to certain guys. A lot of guys, actually.
Okay.
A lot of guys
It's gonna be plural.
Yes, I gotta make it plural. For guy, no, not guy.
We speak like Russian.
It might suck.
Why does marriage suck for a guy?
Yes. I'm learning this new system.
Here it is, man. You know, I was having a discussion about, you know, the mistress and the wife and yada yada. And, you know, I mean, why guys treat the mistress differently than the wife and, you know, all that other shit. And, you know, I asked the woman I was speaking with, it's like, why do you think that happens? Can you figure out why that happens? She, you know, she couldn't really come around it. She gave some decent answers, but she can come around it. And I said, okay, let me tell you what happens most of the time. A fucking wife is a nag. And a lot of these guys don't want to come home to a fucking woman that nags. Now, this is a twofold thing. Number one, you could take control of your home and tell this chick, stop fucking nagging me. Basically, you know what I mean, set the premise in your home. Or number two, you can do what most guys do. Go get a chick who doesn't fucking nag you. 9 times out of 10, that is the mistress. The chick who doesn't nag you, who's happy to see you. The moment she sees you, she's ready to suck your dick. You know what I mean? There's none of the, put it this way, there's none of the headaches and the pressures and the baggage that comes with the wife, but all of the benefits of being fucking with a woman. You know what I mean? When you with the mistress. And for a lot of times for guys, when they're with the mistress, shit usually goes left when the mistress starts nagging them. And that is that is a funny, you know what I mean, pretty particular story that I had to put out there real quick before we dive deeper into the topic. So what say you, gentlemen?
Go ahead, Justin. I'm still trying to create this stupid.
Well,
then leave it alone, bro. Just leave it alone.
All right. Well, I've talked about this sort of stuff before, and okay, so the vast majority of guys don't have any sort of game, right? And which is a particular mindset in order to strategize, to plan, to create, right, and to lead. All right. It's a mindset of learning, growth, and analysis, and forward movement, and this involves a heavy amount of creativity. It involves a lot of self-reflection and quickly getting through your own layers, right? So you can move on to the next and move on to the next internally. Most guys don't operate this way. They operate through their regular social conditioning, and to be fair, a lot of them are waking up because of certain things and, you know, social media and so on. But that said, that means the vast majority of guys do not have game. So they're coming into marriages blind. They're coming into marriages with high hopes. What's up, Jen? They're coming into marriages with this unrealistic, very basic, dreamy sort of mentality where it's like, all right, if I do the right things and if she finds me attractive, everything should be okay. And that's not really the way it is, right? Because there's so many more layers to it actually residing inside her and within the dynamic between the two people that most guys just have zero clue about. And therefore, it leaves the marriage to go flat, right? Unless they start pumping kids into it. So it's like, oh, the energy's going down. Let's have a kid. Boom. All of a sudden, there's this new energy, okay? It starts going down because the kid's getting old, right? Just like you buy a new car, eventually that just becomes your regular car. And you're
Novelty,
like, okay, let's
right?
get a new
Exactly.
toy,
Novelty.
right? Let's
The
have a
novelty.
second baby. Come on. And everybody's like, woo, right? Or they go on a fancy vacation, or there's jewelry or whatever. There's always these little external things or big external things, depending on your lifestyle, that pump up that flatlining of the relationship. But eventually that gets old too. And then she's like, there's nothing really here for me, right? Because nothing is generating a positive emotional response that makes her desire to be with that man. And this is the case of most average dudes. So she leaves, and then they leave. The guys get hurt, they get angry, they go MGTOW, and they say marriage sucks for men, even though it actually sucks for males, right? Because they aren't men. They're completely uneducated to themselves. They have no game. They don't know how to lead. They're not selfish enough. They have gone with the conditioning of being the guy who falls on their sword for their family, and then they become just basically this pawn that gets used up, and then when it's dry, they get tossed aside. Because you can't respect someone like that. And that's the case for a lot of dudes. And then, the RA guys are like, we need to change these laws in court. It's like, well, yeah, maybe for the males who aren't able to lead anything, So I digress.
Look, listen, man. It's funny you should say that because I just bought a new amp, a new Marshall amp. Shit, it's cool. I'll let you hear it.
Nice.
Outside of this.
That got tubes?
I think it probably has tubes. No, it has no tubes in the back because it's. Okay. I wanted to get something that does a little amp modeling. So it's a slash, amp modeler, so on and so forth. When it comes to tubes and all that, I'm gonna get a different setup, and I'm gonna buy a whole pedal board setup. But anyway, I'm in the car. I got my amp. I just came back from Guitar Center. Guy asks me. Like, yeah, do you do music, yada yada, and whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, yo, I went and got this shit because I was saying to myself, like, you know what? I don't have a fucking amp. I don't have a practice amp. Let me just go get a fucking practice amp. And I went and got the practice amp because I had the fucking money. And I was like, I want a fucking amp. And he in a way he connected with it. And in a way, he kind of looked peculiar. And I knew where he was going with it because he was a family guy. And I was like, look, bro, men have to have something outside of their fucking family, man. You got to have something outside of women. You have to have something outside of society telling you that you're a fucking utility for every fucking body. What do you want to fucking do? I don't give a fuck if you want to play a fucking banjo in a saloon. If you're doing Muay Thai, you know what I mean. If you paint, whatever it is, your entire identity can't be what everyone thinks of you. Because once everyone thinks, and it will happen, it inevitably happens because human beings are human beings. Once everyone inevitably has a different opinion of you, then your self-esteem is fucking crushed. If you have a strong opinion of yourself, if you have a solid, strong opinion of yourself, and when motherfuckers turn on you, you're like, well, it is what it is. You motherfuckers is gonna turn on me anyway. You're right on time. Fuck it. And you move on with your life. But I think a lot of men, they're afraid to be the bad guy. They need to be, they need to be that dude or need to be that guy that, when people depend on and so on. And when they realize that they followed everything in the rule book and their wife still leaves them, the chick still leaves them, then they become disillusioned by life and then they become angry. And then maybe they go shoot up some, motherfucking spots like the young gentleman that we were just discussing earlier.
Yeah. Listen, I think, man, that's great points. Both of you have great points. I also think that, listen, this whole marriage thing obviously is something that, like everything else, it's a construction. It's not something that when we came upon this earth, it's things made up, rules made up by the society. And when you're young, you think that what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to find your princess, get married, have kids, live happily ever after. But the reality is that when you need to realize we need to teach people at a younger age that it's a lot more to it, and there is gonna be times where you're not happy. I mean, you're just not. It's impossible. I mean, life in general, you're not going to be happy all the time. Things aren't going to always be going your way. Kids definitely make your life slow down. So you're courting a woman, and like I remember myself, I was single, with Erica. We could travel, we could do all these things. It was easy. And then we got married. There's a house note. Then we have a kid, and suddenly I'm like not making what I'm making now, obviously. And suddenly I'm like, okay, I need to keep the lights on. I need to have food. I need to have insurance. I need to have this. We have to have 2 cars because I'm working 48-hour shifts, and all these things come on you, and your life just slows down from what you used to be able to do. And the trade-off is you have kids, and eventually those kids grow up, and your legacy, if you want to call it that or whatever. And I don't know anybody that says they wish they didn't have their kids, obviously. So I'm not going to make that. I'm not going to have to, put that out. I already did. I just now did. But you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to say, I wish I didn't have kids. That's not the point. The point is that we expect things to be a certain way. And so do women. And to Jen's point, when she talks about, I heard ever since I listened to her say that, women are looking for somebody who's fun over other things. You don't know how many people now I see, just even if it's a show I'm watching, or I was listening to an older lady talk about 2 guys, who would you choose? And she said, well, this guy's a lot of fun. That was the first thing she said. This guy's a lot of fun. I'd probably go out with him because he's a lot of fun. You know what I mean? And but what my point is this, that the beginning is always easy,
right?
And then you're gonna have that. You're gonna eventually hit that wall to where everything seems like work, and a lot of times, guys, myself, I'm gonna include myself. We get comfortable. I get comfortable. I want to do what I did. I want to be able to sit down and watch whatever I want to watch. And tune out. That's my whole thing. When I watch a football game, I'm tuning out, but yeah, we get comfortable.
Why do you get comfortable?
Because it's easy to be comfortable. It's easy to be comfortable. It's hard to actually, you know what I'm saying? It's easy. I don't have to. In other words, when you watch a woman who's, a lot of times the women that we desire are not comfortable women when it comes to keeping up an appearance. It's a lot of work, and I don't think guys have that same view on, we don't have to do all that to get ready, right? But they're actually putting in effort to keep you interested, and a lot of times many men don't. Many men just think, okay, I caught it, the pursuit. You pursued a woman, you caught the woman, you're married, you have kids. Now I'm on, now I'm just going to cruise. I don't know. You might not agree, but I just think that it's really easy to get comfortable.
From my perspective, well, I came in this world as an only kid. So I was always selfish. I was always highly competitive. I always wanted more. I always wanted to excel at the things I wanted to excel in, particularly when I was in the music industry for a number of years. When I left that, I went into technology, and I reached the top of my field in that I started about in 2004, and I've been climbing in that for 20 years. So I'm at the space right now in my life where I'm like, I'm looking for the next mountain. I'm always looking for the next mountain to climb, because in my perception is, if you allow yourself to become stagnant, if the idea of enough becomes a part of your vocabulary, then you'll get stagnant real quick. You'll become complacent real quick.
Yeah.
And yes, thing is pretty much enough for me a lot of times. I like winning. I like getting more. I like conquering. For a lot of men, the only thing that they have going for them is one day I'll get married and I'll have kids. They have no fucking aspirations outside of that. They have no idea who they are outside of that. They have no clear direction on where they're going. Because if you think about that, if that's your goal, if that's your metric, you know how easy it is to fucking peak in life.
Yeah.
I mean, you can fucking peak at 20 doing some shit like that. You know what I mean? And if that's it for you, and once these kids grow old and so on and whatever, and time moves forward, then what are you left with? What are you left with when these things have been accomplished?
I understand what you're saying. I don't think most of us think out that far in advance, really. I really don't. For example, when I was young, looking, I wanted to get a girlfriend. I wanted to have my true love. I wanted, kind of the the whole dream, oh, I'm gonna meet somebody, we're gonna have this life together, but in my mind, I'm planning for that whole. I'm actually trying to plan my life that's gonna have that with things you can't even see. That's gonna be stumbling blocks. Possibly lose your job. Those type. You're not even thinking about that. You're trying to say, okay, so you have this vision, but there's really no planning to it. It's just like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. But it's impossible to actually plan. But for you, there are those people like yourself. I have friends like that are driven past their comfort level. But I just don't think the majority of people are. I don't.
That's part of the basic human condition to seek pleasure and avoid pain or discomfort. All right, it's just part of what we are. If have ever seen WALL-E? Ever see that animated movie?
Damn, I haven't seen it yet.
No, saying I know you have because you got a kid. So
yeah.
But so the future happens. We start depending more and more on technology, and humans then are sequestered to these hovering chairs, and they became these giant fat pieces of shit.
Right.
And all they do, their meals are in shake form. They just have these, like, breakfast is a shake, lunch is a shake, but they're like chicken shakes, But I don't know what they were, but like that's how it was. And that's what people, I think, with this whole AI thing happening, I really think that once the AI and robotics and machinery and everything, like labor, is being taken care of, we are going to get so fat and so stupid. Like the smartest people are going to be like able to just read, and they're going to be, you're a genius. Right? But
did he use a Y in that?
Right.
as a vowel?
What? He said rhythm? So no, but so wait. So what was it that you had just said? Sorry, I got like tangent. I started thinking about WALL-E and like fat people in hover chairs. But what was the last thing that you were just mentioning? The planning. Right.
Yes,
okay.
The planning. Yeah.
One thing that a lot of guys don't have an understanding, and this is like really, really powerful, right? Is having a why. Okay, so they have it a want. They're like, "Ooh, I want a girl." Okay, why?
Right.
Because they're pretty. Because I want to have sex. Okay, why? So you can have babies, because that's how what you're supposed to do, right? But why? Why do you want to have a family? What is it? Because you were conditioned that way? Because that's what your parents told you? Is that what's expected of you? Is that just what people do? That's just what you're supposed to do. Why do you want to have this, right? And it brings it back to your name, right? It brings it because back in the day, your name meant everything.
Right.
Like people would entrust lands on your name. You'd shake hands on your name. You would make promises on your name. And if your name got marred by your behavior or by something that you did or by a rumor or a crime, that was like one of the worst things that could possibly happen to you, to have your name marred by something. Okay. So it was a huge deal. And to have someone take your name, right, that was a huge deal as well, right? Because they were taking on your name lineage, and they were passing this on and creating a legacy of your name, of your family, okay, who also had your name and go on back and forth in time. So it's like that sort of importance of your last name, the importance of your ring, right? Because when a guy says, "Will you marry me?" Okay, he's asking, "Will you come to me? Will you come to my world?" Right? Where everything is my name. This is my life. This is my structure. This is my responsibility. And I understand why I want to do these things. But a lot of guys don't have that why. They just kind of have this idea. I want a girl. I want regular sex. I want to make a family. And that's it. Like, that's the end. And it's like, okay, so all right. So now you got the wife, you got the children, you have the things. Now you just maintain it until you die. Like, that's like you've achieved, you've created the thing, and now you just uphold it. You kind of like keep it held over your head with your arms shaking, and then you die. It's like, really? That's your aim?
Yeah.
That's your goal?
I mean, I think what you're saying is true. I think also there's a few things that I think play into that. One is that, nobody really nobody sits people down and explains the reasoning for all this. So you're looking at what came before you and you're like, okay, well, my grandparents did this and my parents did this, so this is what I'm supposed, like you said, I'm learning, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get married, I'm supposed to have kids, I'm supposed to save, have a 401k, retire, and then die, right? But also there was a time, as we all know, that it wasn't as easy, and Haran says this a lot of people are eating right now that it's because it's easy to eat. If they were around, 100 years ago, it wouldn't be so easy. So back in the day when you had kids to help you with the farm and you're trying to survive and you don't have all this free time. Well, now if you look at, okay, that's what those generations did. Now we're coming to our generation and we sit out, we get married, we have kids, and then what? You have a job, hopefully you set yourself up, you have a job, you're making your money, you're looking to progress in that, but then what? Then you have a lot of free time. And it's not like it used to be. It's just not like it used to be where you didn't have all that free time. So now what? Now you're sitting on the couch watching TV, maybe playing video games, going out drinking with the buddies. But whatever it is, there wasn't that thing that and then you have two different people, two adults that may have two different ideas of what a good marriage is or what makes them happy. And
right,
it just gets hard. That's all it is. I mean, it gets hard.
Well, yeah, it's a creative thing. It's something you create. So, as a guy, like, you have to be that creator. You're constantly having to put in, and that's the burden of it, right? Like the burden of the creation falls on he who created it and is leading it, guiding it, supporting it, maintaining it, right? And you can't let it get boring. You can't let it lose its luster. And that's just what it is, right? But a lot of guys, they get to that resting point and they say, I've achieved. They kick their feet up, crack a beer, and start watching TV, And she's
Absolutely.
like, what's that guy?
I found, Haran, okay, go ahead, Haran.
Just a quick thing, look, the major incentive of invention is convenience. We can all say that, what I mean? And, too much convenience can lead to dependency, and too much dependency can lead to atrophy. And what you find with a lot of these guys now, not necessarily looking for a partner or a mate or whatever, what have you. They're looking for a situation of convenience. You know what I mean? They're looking for someone to depend on, and what I've seen is that a lot of these guys get into these situations where they're so dependent on the fucking woman that they can't, they act like children. They can't even fucking think for themselves. They can't even fucking move for themselves. They can't even make a decision on their fucking own.
Oh my God.
Like she goes on, like if she goes on a trip, she's like eating cereal for the week.
And it's like, well, we're gonna go trick with my wife. Like, I just asked if you wanted water with your soup. Like, I just asked it, I just asked if you wanted sugar in your fucking coffee. But I don't know, my wife says. And it's like, look, listen, a lot of men are declawing themselves through these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in their minds, they're thinking like, okay, the relationship is just a real solid way for me to find a surrogate mom, you know what I mean, that I can just live off of and depend on, and she'll take care of everything. And this is the reason why the woman gets, you know, again, the woman gets turned off. Because after a while, she realizes that, hey, I got a kid. This is literally another child in this house. And that's where the resentment starts a lot of times, man. Because that energy that she leaves, that she, you know what I mean, points towards her children, now she has to take some of that shit and point towards you. I don't give a fuck what anyone says, man. Once your woman looks at you like a fucking child, or as a responsibility, or you know what I mean, as a chore or whatever, you're going downhill from there, man. Okay.
No, you're I swear, man, when I get on these things, I'm thinking, man, do they live with me or something? Like he's talking about me. No, because when you're talking, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I even mentioned this, like, what the hell's, you know, what is wrong with me when I would be sitting there waiting for her to hand me my clothes, like I don't know how to get them myself. But the problem I had was the culture she came from. The woman does all that stuff, right? And you know, she's telling me the whole time, I love it. I'll do all this stuff. But the problem is you become dependent on it. And it's not that I forgot how to do all these things. It's that I got used to not doing it. But like you said, eventually, even for a woman that is from that culture, they get tired of doing that. It ends up, it's not as fun as it was in the beginning, right? And so then they start, like you're saying, they start to resent the fact that, you know, they're
let me ask you this. Where does resentment come from? Right?
The lack of thinking things are not equal, I think, in that sense.
No. Resentment comes from lack of recognition. Okay. So it's like if I come into your house and cut your lawn out of the goodness of my heart, and I just keep doing it.
Good point.
I don't get any recognition, eventually I'm going to be like, fuck this guy. Right?
Absolutely.
But if you were to come out after every time, recognize that I've done a good job, be like, hey man, I really appreciate this. I didn't even ask you to come cut my grass. Why don't you come in here and I'll make you some lunch? Right? Now I'm getting rewarded for it on top of being recognized. Now I'm incentivized to keep doing it again and again and again. Okay.
Good point. Yeah. No, I think you make a good point. You reminded me of something. Okay. And this is something else that I think played in as far as what was going on with me, was that she was such a perfectionist at everything she did that even when I would do certain things at times, like she would go back and do it again, right? Because she kind of had a compulsion and everything like that. So it wasn't exactly the way she wanted it. And so then I end up, well, she's going to do it again. I'm not going to do this. I'm kind of opening up to what had gone on with my relationship. And even came to the point where she said, well, why couldn't you just make something before I got home for the kids to eat? But my whole thing was like, well, okay, but if I do it, you know, I was always thinking it was not going to be the way up to her standards, but eventually that went out the window for her. She didn't care. She could go with the lesser standards because she eventually got a job and everything became that much more harder to, you know, for one person to do by themselves. But no, you made a good point. You made a lack of recognition and but to what Haran said, it was crazy because I was in the military. I folded my clothes. I did all these things. I could do it. I'm capable, but I let myself, like Haran said, get declawed. And when he said that, it rung a bell with me. That's what happened to me. I let myself just act like I did. I went back to when I was like, 12 years old or something, and my mom was taking care of me. It's like just sitting there, and it's embarrassing. It's not something I'm proud of, but
right. So at that point, it's like you're allowing them they're taking the wheel now, driving you around. Right.
Yeah.
This is something that I teach my guys, when I'm teaching them about how to have a structure within a DS relationship, and their girlfriend or their wife is coming on board and following the structure that they've designed and laid out. And they're like, wow, this is great. Like, she's like really into this, right? She's really into serving and doing all these things that I would like done. And I said, well, you can't just let it go. Like, you have to give recognition. You have to make it very aware to them that they're doing a good job, right?
Absolutely.
And no matter how small it is, because it's the small things that when you recognize them, that's what makes the greatest impact. Not when they do something grandiose. It's like the regular everyday stuff, right? And then you make note of that, and then you create something where it's like, okay, they've been consistent with this for X amount of time. Now you can deliver a reward because you know certain things about them that they really love. And it's like, maybe they have like an obsession with going to the movies. They fucking love going to the movies. It's like, hey, you know what? We got these. I got you these tickets because of this has been consistent for this long time, and I love that you've been doing that. All this recognition. I got seats in those, special theater where you have like the pod with all the cushions and stuff, and a waiter comes over and gets you the whole thing. And there's only like 8 seats in the theater. They have these in New York. I don't know where you are, but and it's like a really, really special thing. It's like way beyond just going to the movies, and it's like that would have crazy impact on them, and it's all based on them following what you had said. So there is no chance for this thing to become like mediocrity, like, oh, this is just the thing that happens and I get sleepy in the mind. It's like you have to maintain that sharpness in your mind of always watching and measuring and then having that recognition and reward system. Granted, just real quick, this is just for DS situations, but I just wanted to bring that up because we heavily focus on paying attention, like heavily paying attention, so that nothing really slips through the cracks and you get lazy and complacent. It may not be for everybody.
Personally, it's real funny. Someone just said that men behave as if we got their world we have the world on our shoulders and blah blah blah. And I've been told that I behave in that way. And speaking for myself, I don't think I necessarily behave that way. I'm just a person of duty. I just know what I need to do. I'm just passionate about getting things done. I'm not dependent on people. I'm not dependent, even if I'm with a woman. No, I'm not dependent on the woman. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal or whatever to be like, I don't need a woman. No, it's just that I know what I need to do. I know how I'm doing it. It's great to have a partner, yes, but I'm never under the assumption that this person will always be able to be there. That's just mathematically impossible. Sometimes things happen, sometimes people, drop the ball on you, unintentionally, and I think by approaching life in that manner, you don't put this intense pressure on other human beings. You just know what you're there to do. What you are going to make happen, because there's going to be sometimes you're going to fuck up and you're going to expect the same degree of understanding of grace, and when you say, hey, my bad or whatever. But again, overall, it's not that I hold I'm carrying the world on my shoulders. It's just that I'm very focused on what needs to get done, and I'm a very competitive, passionate person. Another thing too is that, look, man, to Justin's point, never underestimate the power of smacking a chick on the ass after she done made you your coffee, man. You know what I mean? Smack her on the ass.
If that's what brings the smiles, and that's what really, exactly. They see that as like a great reward. If that's what it is, and know that, it's fine,
Smack her on that ass and be like, good girl.
About the burden,
I've done that in my
world.
Yeah.
So I just real quick about the burden thing. It's not a burden if you don't, if it's, I don't see it as a burden, because to me, it's just another place for me to express myself creatively. Right. You're a musician, Heron. Like, yes, creating music is an exertion of energy in some way. So some might characterize it as a burden, but it's not really a burden that stresses you. Right. It's something you love to do. So it's not really like, oh my God, I have to fucking practice guitar today. Like you do it because you're driven to do it, because it brings you joy to express yourself in this manner. But it still is an exertion of energy. So it does kind of take something of you to do this. Right. And that's the way I kind of move myself through my relationship. So yes, it's energy usage, but it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is such a slog, I can't handle it, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So we have here, Peace Fellas, look, marriage is dope. Divorce is what sucked. Obviously, with the right person, you both can soar straight from POP.
Yeah.
Okay, what is it about divorce that sucks? What is it?
Yeah, and I would like to
Outside
add that he's right. If you are with the right person, you can both soar. The problem is who's the right person, you know, and you may not know when you meet that person if it's the right person, because there is a lot of hiding your blemishes when you're in a relationship. And then what happens when you're in a long-term relationship or you're married is you can't do it forever. You can put on this facade. Oh, it happened when I was a young man, like in my relationships. Oh, I want this kind of man. Boy, I would try to be that kind of man, but eventually I would get tired because you can't do it. It's an act.
No.
An act is working, and eventually you just can't hold up. So to find the right person, that's almost a crapshoot the way I look at it. Like, you might get lucky, but
well, it starts with self-awareness, right? And the self-awareness is what allows one to be honest with who they actually are without having sort of fear of judgment and fear of, oh, I don't know if a girl will like me because of who I am naturally or whatever.
Right.
And so that ties into self-respect, self-love, getting rid of self-hate. And that's not how most guys live. Most guys live full of doubts. They don't love themselves. They hate themselves. There's no sense of pride in who they are and who they become. Like nobody's perfect, but we've all lived lives that, I mean, we could all tell stories, right? We've all been so many places, even if you've never left your hometown. Right, there's just so many layers, and a lot of guys, their regular operating system is like, this sucks, it's not good enough, I hate me, I'm ugly, I'm just all this like self-bashing self-speak. Okay, and so when they go into it, then that's what happens with what you described. There's this facade created. It's like, no, I don't have any problems. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm better than fine. I'm exactly what you were looking for.
Right.
Listening to all these fucking podcasts or whatever saying what women are looking for. So I'm going to mirror that. And it's all becomes a big farce, which then doesn't encourage her to be honest. Right. So it's if like you're honest with yourself and you're grounded and proud of who you are, that gives her the sense of comfort that like, oh, he's really comfortable with who he is. He's not trying to put up a front. He's not judging me because he's not judging himself. And that allows her walls to go down and allows her to become herself, who she keeps hidden from most men anyways. And now that's what kind of leads the situation to become much more honest, much more wholesome in that sense. And, that's where you can then have a greater chance of true compatibility or a true vision of this is not compatible, right? That is, everything becomes very clear, but you can only be there if you're okay with saying this isn't for me, right? And just walking away. But if you got that hole and you need to grasp onto women because you need them to feel better about yourself because you have low self-esteem, low self-worth, or even self-hatred, then you're going to be so very reluctant to cut her off because that's going to be an admittance to that failure.
Yeah.
I will
go ahead.
One second thing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I like to have feminine energy around me because not only do I just enjoy the company of women, but number two, one of the main things is that I have a lot of intense energy. I have a lot of brute energy, and if I'm alone for too long and so on or whatever, and I get in my own head and I get into my own space, I tend to get real fucking aggressive. You know what I mean? Because I don't necessarily have somebody in my life to balance me out, as they would say, or some another outlet per se. It's like saying I'm left to my own devices. I'm listening to fucking metalcore for like 6 or 7 months straight. You know what I mean? And with all that fucking intense energy going on, that shit is gonna have you like just, on a constant 12 all the time. Sometimes when you're with a woman, you're giving the opportunity, because when I'm with a woman, it gives me the chance to like express another side of me. you know what I mean, and you know what I mean, and another outlet, an artistic outlet to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know, I can express myself in a different way when I'm with a woman than, you know what I mean, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, so on, as opposed to if I'm just by myself all the time with my other boys who are also like super fucking competitive. So you're in a room full of fucking brutes and maniacs. It's like going to war. After a while, it just, you know what I mean, you need to unplug from that. And you know, but one of the things that I will say though, when it comes to like saying like divorce sucks, I've never been married, but my understanding of if I got divorced, my first thing isn't, oh wow, my wife is leaving me. The first thing I'm thinking is, oh shit, how much is this gonna cost me? You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like one of those. It was actually not even kind of. It was really one of the things I thought about when my child's mother and I broke up. Like, okay, how much is this gonna really cost me now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what happens now? Yeah, I love my kid and I love my kid to death, but I'm thinking pragmatically most of the time. Like, what's next? Because no matter how much I feel, the fucking bill's coming downstairs.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
I have to fucking pay this shit.
Yeah. I can tell you that when you think about stuff like that, because I went through a separation, and for me the thought was, how can I do this and my kids don't feel it the most, you know? And I mean, I was willing to do a lot. I was thinking, can I find a tiny home? Can I find someplace? Can I stay at the station half the time and then find I mean, I went through the whole list. Like, okay, could I live in a tent under the bridge? I mean, I went through, shower at the gym,
Jesus Christ.
in the tent. I mean, because my whole thing was I didn't want my kids to suffer anything because their mom and myself weren't gonna be together, and I knew that the deal of the finances, because I was the one that was doing the heavy lifting. So I knew what I could do and I knew what I couldn't do. And I couldn't live a separate house of bills and keep the same lifestyle for my kids where they're not feeling. And that was what was most important to me. But yeah, so it definitely is, well, how much is this going to cost? But for me, it wasn't because I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to afford, an icy or something. It was, it was, I didn't want my kids to have to feel any of the
the repercussions,
the repercussions of what was happening between us. Yeah.
Well, the vision of Chris Farley popped into my mind.
One second, Justin. I'm going to say something that might be a little
down by the river.
I don't think marriage should be for working men. It's just too much to lose if shit goes wrong. I've seen guys financially fucking ruined. You know what I mean? Regular guys as well. You know what I mean? Well, for rich guys, you know what I mean? I personally know rich guys, and they didn't want to pay either, but they at least didn't end up on their mom's couch. I've seen, you know what I mean, guys end up on their fucking,
but it's still
mom's couch and shit like that and ruined.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I would say this about getting married, having been married and divorced, and now in a relationship that is vastly different. It was actually easier than most. I've heard, having worked with men for a number of years now, I've heard some of the worst stories possible. Worst. Like, Justin, I need to talk to you now. It's fucking 3:00 in the morning because I feel like killing myself. Ooh. Like, for real. Okay? Like, guys kill themselves out of the results of what happens through divorce because of just the extreme amount of fuckery that happens. And a lot of it is goaded by the lawyers involved.
Yes.
Okay. So my situation, we had a mediator, and we had already, before we even got to the technical aspect of divorce, we had already gone through the emotional crud. Okay. So a lot of it, the crud had been already scooped out, like when you go to the dentist, like the decay had been removed, and you're just left with that gaping hole. And they're like, okay, so now how do we mend this? Let's just move forward, put in the filling, and let's just get it going. And so all the shitty stuff had been dealt with or at least faced before we got to the legal proceedings, which a lot of people don't do. They go into legal stuff fully fired up with all their pain and their anger, and it just it's a bad way to move. Now, being gone through a lot of women since having been divorced and now being in a relationship of a very particular type, I would say, guys, don't get married until she is practically begging to be your wife. Okay? Like begging to have your name, begging to have your ring, like religious level of devotion towards the religion of you. Because if it's not like that, if she's just not like blinders on, like, you are my man, if she's always got like the side eye of like, I need an exit plan, okay, then it's like, well, she doesn't have the complete full on genuine devotion towards you. Right? They're always like checking to make sure that there's that escape route, right? And to be fair, if they've got a number of guys who have been regular dudes who have always dropped the ball, or she wished would be a certain type of guy and then turned out to not be that guy, because that's what most average guys are, right? They have no game, they have no leadership, they have no program, they have no way to drive her and inspire her and guide her, right? She's kind of like left on her own. It's like, okay, you come in here and now you're just kind of left to your own devices and certain like unspoken expectations of what a wife is supposed to be and do, right? And then all this like unsaid stuff bubbles up, and then you get into stupid little fights, and then there's no real leadership, and then you're like, okay, we're just like working it out. You know what I mean? And a lot of shit gets stuffed under the carpet, and then that like grows and festers, and you're like, well, what's that smell? And everyone's like trying to ignore it, right? That's like the regular situation, okay? But that sort of thing doesn't happen when you have that devotion plus leadership plus a program plus vision plus the ability to guide and lead, but also the fearlessness to cut something off without a moment's hesitation. Being able to be that fucking cold, but also to be that fucking nurturing at the same time, right? It's like, you come into my castle, you'll be treated like royalty. Mm-hmm. As long as you have, like, because they're showing that devotion, it's like you show that devotion, that willingness to submit your being to this mission, right? Submission under the mission, right? And then therefore you get treated like royalty. You are part of the tribe because you're saying, I want to be part of this tribe with like sincere, honest devotion. Okay. And that requires a guy to be, do you see, it's like it all fits together in this like weird little puzzle piece. And that would, if you don't have this, do not get married. Establish this before you get married so that it becomes just a no, like it's a no-brainer at that point, right? Because she's already fully desiring that ring. She's fully desiring to take on your name. She's fully desiring to create the lineage with you, for you, right? So it's like, you know, yeah, Jen's still got to be careful if she wants to marry you badly, because women are all in the beginning, they're programmed to want a husband. Yeah, that's true. So that's why you don't rush it. You take your time to make sure, because you, like No Saint was saying, you can't put that mask on forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't hold it. Eventually that mask falls off, and hers will too, if she's wearing a mask. So that's why you take your time to build this program and to show her what's going on. And then it's like, if it falls off, hey, there it is. You've been caught, honey. See you later.
Listen, I like this Jay Caverse's it's, would you get married again? Now, I know Haran has not been married.
I wouldn't get married. I would never get married.
He's never going to get married. So
that's fine.
So for you, Mr. Justin, what would you say?
Would I be getting married again?
Would you ever get married again?
It's certainly a consideration. It's definitely not a no. Okay, but it's contingent. Like, I have a solid program, so it's contingent on my woman's ability or a woman's ability to show that level of devotion that I'm looking for. If that doesn't happen, well, that's fine. I'm not gonna be like put out, be like, oh man, I can't get married again. It's like, well, that's just, it is what it is. But if she's showing and she's like, I really want to be on this fucking team, I am ready, let's go, and enough time has passed and it's still let's go, then I'm like, okay, you may
Yeah.
have my name.
For me, I have to really think about that question. I would not see another reason. There would have to be a good reason to get married again. In other words, the kids are, all the benefits, for the kids, having the family together, all that kind of stuff, the tax breaks, that's all gone at my age. Once the kids leave, what would be the purpose other than maybe passing on something, when I die, which at this point, I don't know what it's going to be. I mean,
Right, because it's all going to your kids.
Right. That too. So I would have to say, if I'm not with Erica in, say, 10 years and I meet a woman and, we're dating and having a good time, I don't know if it would be necessary. I really don't know what the point would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Ego.
That's me. Maybe, maybe for fun. I don't know if you can say that's fun. I don't know.
Well, yeah, there is the benefit of
Vegas.
A little tax break. You get a little tax break. If there's an emergency, like let's say you get into a really bad car accident, then your wife at that point has the ability to come into the recovery room or the emergency room and that sort of thing. You can assign them certain legal or medical privileges. So if they're not your wife and you've been with them for many years, they're going to be like, like they wouldn't even be let into the hospital room with you because they're not family.
Right. But you can get, I think there's exceptions for that. If you wanted to push it, I think you could get like some kind of a legal paperwork done. If that's what you're, if you don't have, I don't know. I imagine that there is, though, that there's something that you can go over and get legal paperwork done to allow that person to come, because they do it when they used to do it before gay marriage, they used to have to do stuff like that. That was one of the arguments. Well, you can get all the rights of a marriage. You don't have to be married. You just have to go through some kind of legal, paperwork. But
we have right here the Red Pill are doing and pushing spiritual marriages to protect their finances. They don't sign paperwork. What do you think of that? I think that's not a marriage. I think that's a bunch of motherfuckers saying that's my wife and they're playing play. Now, if that's your thing, it's your thing.
It is. Well, Muslims have, like two of my clients, they're Muslim and they have spiritual marriages, and by Muslim law or whatever, they are married. Like they are married before God. But according to the state, if they were to say go to, I actually don't know what country he's really from, but if they were to go there, I think they would be recognized as married. But here we have different laws, and we don't really we separate church and state. So it's like, no, you're not technically married by the state here.
Right.
So it's like taking one reality and plunking it into another reality. Now, I think what Jen's saying is that a lot of guys are adopting this and saying, okay, we're married because they happen to be like devout Christians and shit like that. And I don't know if that really holds water, but whatever, do whatever you want. If she's on board with it, she's on board with it.
Well, that's the problem, though.
Whole thing. That's but to I know where you're going with this, no saying, because she and I had the discussion, because it's just like, well, here's my thing. If you're gonna go down that road, just understand that when you're in the States, there are going to be certain limits and certain barriers that she can't cross by because she's not your wife. You know what I mean? If something happens to you and somebody needs to make that final decision, she's most likely not going to be able to make that final decision because on paper, she's not your fucking wife. As a matter of fact, there's no paper. You know what I mean? Now, with I'm like this, whatever two people agree to, that's their fucking business. Just understand that what that means, and what that doesn't mean.
Well, that's the thing. And what I wanted to say also is that I'm not sure if I'd have to look it up now, but I think California is one of the states where there is a common law marriage. Like if you're with that person
They're
long
still
enough,
doing common law there?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That-
A lot of more than just Cali has that.
yeah. But so when you
I think
break
New York
up,
does
you
too.
still have to split with some of your stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
like 7,
Yep,
10
that's
years
true.
though? Isn't that 7,
I'm
10
not
years?
sure.
Yeah, it's a number of years that you have to be living in the same roof. Jay says, isn't marriage for the elites anyway? The Rothschilds and whatnot. Honest question. No, it's not for the elites. It's for people who have shit, right? So it's like the farmers and shit got married all the time, right? But it's because like he had some goats and some land and like needed children and needed to be able to pass it on and all this stuff. Like, but for the guys who just don't have anything, like there's really no point, right? There's really no point in getting married if you don't have anything to pass on, right? Like if you just want to pass on your genes, you don't really need to get
you
married
don't.
for that. Genghis Khan didn't marry all those women.
Not at all. Well, that goes to the point that I said earlier. A lot of guys just want to lock in a mom. Not necessarily, they don't really have shit to offer. Nor do they intend to go out there and get anything. They just want to lock in a fucking mom. Like, yes, to your point, you don't need to get married if you just want a progeny. You don't need to get married. Like, that's one of the reasons why. There's 2 reasons why I'm not getting married. Number one, I have a kid already, and it didn't work out with the person who had a child with. You know what I mean? Number 2, I'm not trying to have another person in my fucking pockets if shit goes wrong again.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what? That didn't work out. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. I'm good. Let me just move on in life. You know what I mean? I already got the kid. I don't need to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you want to move. That's how you want to move.
Yeah. So that was to answer the question of, would you get married again? I think it would definitely, for as far as that goes, it would have to be something. There would have to be a reason too, and I just don't. And like Justin, like you're saying, if you don't, it's not like I have a huge estate that I'm, and like and what you were saying is anything that I do have, we both agreed would go to the kids. It's not like I don't have I'm not a millionaire. I don't have millions of dollars to,
Sure.
So
and to be fair, there are couples out there. I know there's like the famous one that everyone references with Goldie Hawn and what's his name? Goldie Hawn's dude. But they've been together for years and years and years.
Is he a younger guy?
No, Patrick Swayze.
No, he's dead.
Or something like that. Yeah, no, I know, but whatever. They have the guy that Goldie Hawn has been with. They've been together for years and years and years, no marriage, right? And there's tons of people who are like this. They're together for a very long time, and again, it comes down to compatibility, right? So it's like if you don't care about marriage, get with a woman who doesn't care about marriage, right? It's just not a thing for her. Right. And there's plenty of girls out there that are like that. They want a man, but they don't want to be married. Right. And for whatever their reasons are, and they'll be completely loyal. They'll be completely devoted, maybe even have children, but they just don't want to get married. And if that's your thing, then that's compatible. Right. Don't get with a woman who wants to get married when you don't want to. Yeah. Kurt Russell. Thank you, Pop. So it's like, or if you're one of these spiritual marriage guys, get with a woman who is on that program already. Like you don't have to like convince her, right? She too already believes in spiritual marriages. That's why the Muslim thing works, because women there are on the same program as the men. You know what I'm saying? So it like makes sense.
It's just funny. It's funny, Mr. Justin, that you mentioned the word convince, because I was explaining that to the panel the other day. Never be in the convincing business. Present where you are, present what you have, because whenever you're in the convincing business, you're not operating from a space of strength. A lot of people think that they all be like, I got the gift of gab. Like, no, you're actually looking like a fucking beggar after a fucking while. You know what I mean? Present what you have. If the person is on board, they'll make the decision, And 9 times out of 10, to be totally honest with you, people if you present well without even opening your mouth, people want to actually be a part of whatever the hell you're doing. So yes, never be in the convincing business.
No. And it starts with not convincing yourself as a man. You know, don't convince yourself that you're more or less than what you actually are.
And I think, but that's what I think's the problem. I think, man, nature plays cruel tricks on us, because most guys and women, probably, I'm not a woman, but I assume women don't really know who they are when they're in the marriage and age, and they're in the age where they're looking to get married and have kids. And yeah, so I'm older now, and I totally am a better person, or I know myself way more than I knew when I was in my 20s. And I would know going into a relationship what my weak points are, and also know what I want and what I don't want, and know if I could provide for that other person what they're looking for, if you're having an honest conversation, right? But it doesn't work that way. It's just like everybody says, you know, you get old and you're like, if I only knew now what I knew, know then what I know now, yeah, I'd be a millionaire. I mean, I would know exactly how to map things out, because I have all this experience. You know what I mean?
All the lottery numbers too. So let's.
Yeah. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I would know. I would know what I'm. I know what I'm capable of. I would know
how things work.
Yes.
You know how things work. You're like, I know how to play this game, or I know how to play this part of the game. Yeah, that's just the way life goes. You know.
But even when we talk about relationships, it's the same thing. You don't really, at least I would think the majority of guys don't really know themselves well enough, and you're looking to lock down. You know, because women, as much as we say we pick the woman, they pick us, right? They have different ways to go, and you're looking like, this woman is probably the best I'm gonna get. Let me go ahead and lock that down.
That's how most guys do think, like on the bell curve. Like they take what they can get, and if it's good enough, they try to hang on to it as long and strong as possible.
Yes,
and do whatever they can. But then in that effort of doing whatever they can, they end up working the way under her feet. And then she uses them like a skateboard.
And it's sad to see a lot of times.
That happens.
Well, and sometimes without her effort, the guy's like, let me get under there.
Very true.
And she's like, wait, what are you doing? And he's
very
like,
true.
I'm your skateboard. And she's like, wait, I didn't ask you to be my skateboard. It's like, come on, give me a push.
Well, yeah, they'll say, "Oh, well, if you insist."
Right, if you insist. I'm like, okay, this is fun for a little while, but now I'm getting bored. I need the man to like bend me over the kitchen counter.
Yes.
Grab my hair.
You make a great point there. I mentioned one of my big relationships I had was a woman that was 7.5 years older than me, I think. And they will take you and use you, hang you out to dry.
But listen, man, look, man. Very rarely will the woman pass up an opportunity to use a motherfucker as a mark. You want to be a mark for a woman? She'll help you out. Like, oh, you want to be a sucker?
Right. It's like, but because the vast majority of guys, and I think probably even the like what you would call like top 1% of men, still don't get the same sort of influx of attention the way women do, especially like average to attractive women. So they get this influx over years and years and years. Right? Of guys just like throwing themselves. And at first, I'm sure it's confusing where they're like, what's going on here? I don't understand. Why is he being so nice to me? I don't even know who he is. What the fuck is going on? And then they start giving her stuff and treating her a certain way and so on. And it's like, after a while, they're like, wait a second, let me just try this little thing. I really like that necklace. And then she's like, let me just wait a second. And then like 2 days goes by and it's like, boom, she has the necklace. She's like, holy shit. It's like magic. Right.
It's like a
and
wish.
Imagine having that happen again and again and again over years. Like after a while, you're gonna be like, I'm a fucking wizard. Like, what the fuck is this? Is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So when a guy comes through who doesn't operate in that way, and he's got this whole fucking other shit in his head about how to move and how to talk and how to speak and how to behave and all this shit, and he says no, and she's like, well, what? And he's like, you have to prove your worth to me before I give you my dick, my attention, my love, my affection. Give me a reason to even look in your direction. Right? And she's like, you asshole. But I love that. Right? And that's really what, and but you got to maintain that sort of thing. You know, it's got to be genuine, like that's how you actually are. But I'm saying I bring that up just like to just give a little taste of like guys can't even fucking fathom of what it's like, you know, from their end. Right. And we hear like, oh yeah, that guy's been turned into a mark, and guys are like, oh my gosh, she's such an asshole. It's like you have no fucking clue of what that reality must be like to be just flooded with that sort of power, that influence that you didn't even ask for.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally guys just hand it over on gilded platters, you know, lined with jewels. And they're like, please take it here. And she's like, what did I do to deserve this? I just showed up. I happen to have good genetics for no reason at all. Like,
Yeah. And I listen, like I totally agree with what you're saying. The older you get, the more experience you get to realize you can't really judge people like that harshly, because in the beginning, when that first started happening to this person, they might have not even known they had that power. No. And so then they say, okay, oh, all right, that's nice. And then eventually in the beginning, they might have not looked at that. They might have said, I'm not that kind of person to use a person for that. But then the gifts start rolling in. You're like, well, maybe I am that kind of person because it's kind of nice. You know what I mean? I always try to put, wait, real quick. I always try to put like, what would I do as a man, or what would men do? And men would do the same thing. We would all do the same thing. If some woman was giving us money and stuff, men do it. Some men do it. You know, we're not really that different. So yeah, I know what you're saying. Go ahead, Brian.
I think there's certain life skills that every young man should practice before he even thinks about going out there, you know, and courting or marriage or anything to that effect. I think that every young man should understand sales. Every young man should take a sales course or understand how to sell, you know, an item. And when you sell a product, a lot of people, one of the main reasons why they don't know how to sell a product is because they never sell. Most people concentrate. This is a jewel I'm gonna put y'all on to. This is from a person who worked in sales, which is the music industry, which is a number of other things that I worked with. You never sell the features. No one cares about the features. You sell the benefits. No one gives a fuck that this car, you know what I mean, moves at this particular, you know what I mean, speed at, you know what I mean, within 0.6 seconds. And, you know what I mean, these tires are made of this, blah, 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 so on and so forth. No. You know what the benefit is? Yo, if you're getting this fucking chick, getting this fucking car, chicks are going to be swarming all over this fucking bitch, man. You don't even need any fucking game. You jump in this motherfucker. You roll up in this in your next fucking company meeting. They're gonna beg you to actually, you know, have them sign on, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. That's the benefits, because people are initially selfish. When you sell the benefits, what's in it for you? And a lot of times, yes, women, when they look at you, they think initially, what's in it for me, in their mindset and so on. Now, this is not to say that you go overboard and become what they want you to be so you can, you know, get it. I'm not saying that at all. That's another way that a lot of guys fuck up. You know what I mean? They think that they're supposed to be some sort of archetype or prototype in order to get the woman, but they don't know how to maintain that because that's not who they are initially. So that falls apart. Now, another thing that men need to know how to do also is to tell a story. Understanding how to tell a story, improving your sense of humor. You're growing your ability to be captivating. You're growing your ability to be to hold a group of people together. You're improving your charisma in a sense. Look, man, I was in the music industry at a very young age, and it accelerated my understanding and accelerated my learning in a lot of areas. It matured me in a lot of areas that really shouldn't have happened. But let me tell you something. You look at life really differently when you see a mother ready to throw their only kid under a bus for damn near 10 grand, for just 10 fucking grand. You start learning, you know what I mean, how ruthless life is. You start learning what will actually do in order to sell a product, how to get people on board with shit. And you really start really looking at life like, oh shit, this is how it fucking works, and things of that nature. So for me, when I went out into the world, things weren't that foreign to me. You know what I mean? When dealing with women, we're dealing with certain things because, you know, I was in a cesspool of a fucking industry. A lot of other guys, they don't have that, man. They live with their fucking moms. Some of them might not, you know, have really great, you know, relationships with their dads. They're playing fucking Fortnite, or they're on 4chan all the fucking time. So, fucking idiots. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Oh, they're trying to pull a bunch of other fucking idiots who are addicted to porn and all kinds of just stupid shit. You know, they don't lift, they don't challenge themselves. So they go out into the world and they think that, okay, they literally think that, okay, I'm going to go on YouTube to learn how to talk to a chick. And the shit that I get on here, I'm going to use out there in the real world. And it's supposed to work because I saw it on YouTube. That's not how it works. You go out there and you live life. You practice, you learn. Some people are naturals, some people aren't. But it doesn't mean that you can't improve yourself. You know what I mean? And that's basically my whole stance on the whole thing.
Well, I'm looking at this question on the screen. It's been up there a while. I mean, my simple answer is yeah.
Fundamentally incompatible to cohabitate with. No, I don't think that's a thing. I think that if there's comfort in the home, you know what I mean, if you set the stage and so on, you should be fine.
I think that
me generally, I barely want to live with anybody, but you know what I'm saying? That's just me. Well, that's not gender specific for me.
I just think that I really think that we're just in a time now that it's just not it's too easy. And I don't know how to put this. We don't have to be together. We really don't have to be together. We live in a time where women can support themselves. Men can support themselves. You don't have to be dependent financially on each other. It's not like the old days where you kind of had to be a family if you're on a farm, to take care of the farm.
To have a family to survive.
Because
you needed more hands to till that farm.
And I mean, we see that even and that's why most of the quote unquote first world is going through a decline in population. It's because we're not having as many kids because we don't live on farms anymore. You don't have to have that extra labor, and then it becomes an expense. And so people say, hell, I just want to have one kid. I just want to have two. I don't want to have any kids. You know what I mean? So I just think that in today's time, I hate to say it, but I don't think marriage is, to me, the only reason to be married is for kids and for the benefits of that. Other than that,
if you're not having kids,
right?
But the problem with that is that we're actually headed to a tipping point where America is actually behind the curve in creating more humans. And there's other countries. I think China is done. Like China is
they're done.
Absolutely finished.
They are,
because they're too far behind now in creating humans, and we're very, very close. We're very close to losing. We're slipping.
Yes.
Beyond that tipping point. Once that happens, just say fuck it. Like there's no, like, if you want to have kids, have it for egotistic reasons, right? But like the nation is going to fall. It's going to crumble because there's no one going to be around to maintain it. It's just old people.
I mean, I've talked about this. I've talked about this a little on Jen's on the block. The one advantage we have is people still want to come here, immigrate here. And we still in Mexico they're not in that situation. So,
and the development of AI and robotics, like, that's going to help as well.
Yeah. But you're right, as far as like, and as a matter of fact, China is encouraging people through breaks and stuff like that to have children, but it's too late, like you said.
Yeah.
The next thing I think they'll do is they'll try to force people to have children. It's still too late. But
Well,
you're right. You're right.
I was
right.
thinking about this earlier today, actually, and I envisioned that like smaller cities are just going to become abandoned, and and people are going to consolidate into cities, and it's going to become very, very dense, and we're going to have like a Blade Runner situation where we just have like city on top of cities, right? Like underground, above the ground. Then people are just going to be stacked on top of each other a lot. And that's so the only way that a city is going to be able to thrive, because if it's too small, it's not going to be able to happen. So I think cities are going to end up consolidating, and smaller cities and towns are just going to shut down.
So we're just going to have like a ghost town of small cities.
Yeah.
And not just that,
will just get like rated for resources and shit.
Yeah, and with the way the tide's going to end up rising, a lot of the coastal cities will probably be especially some of the smaller ones will be the first ones that get left behind, I imagine. But
well, my thoughts about the living together, so I didn't weigh in on that.
I just want to say one thing, Jay.
Uh-huh.
I just want to say one thing, Jay. Look, that's for me. All right, I don't like living with people. Period. I never like living with family. I'm just a person who just likes my space. Now, if you have, I mean, this is not to say that for other people it can't work for them. You know what I mean? I'm just a person who I just like my solitude. I'm just that person, but that doesn't, I might be somewhat of an outlier. It doesn't mean that other people can't put in the effort to do that, or maybe naturally they can live with other people.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with the marriage thing. I'm okay with cohabitation, provided what I mentioned before is already in existence, where there's that heavy devotion, right? I also think that if you're going to do this, you at least should have some extra space. So when she's misbehaving, you say, go to your room, and she has another room to go to and sleep in a totally different bed. Or if you really, ideally, if you can afford it, you have a second abode, right? Where you guys can like go have your own little spaces and have your own little worlds. And then like she'll come, like live at your place every so often. You'll go to her place, maybe there'll be like one home base, and the other one's like the satellite place where they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go like just take a breather and go be at the, the second home B for a couple days, and like that's just part of the thing. So I do think though that if you do live together, that it's just important to be able to have this space in order to separate, or at least feel like you're separated, like you've got your own places to be, where you can just relax and not have that influence of the other person.
Okay, so let's go right there for a quick second. Great segue. Are you basically saying, because I've seen this, a lot of people, they get married and they lose their identity within the confines of the marriage, not taking into account that both people are individuals, both people have their own thing, both people, have their own tastes. Being separate is healthy. I don't think that's often discussed when people discuss married life. Everything is always a one where it's always together. And I mean, because look, listen, you're looking at it from a space of human nature, familiarity to some degree breeds resentment. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man, I don't want to see my fucking mom every day. Like, it's like nothing fucking personal, but people, I don't think people, and I think that's one of the main things. I think people constantly push the narrative of marriage, and it creates this idea that people just literally just become the marriage, and that's it.
Yeah, listen, when my father was around, when I was young, when I was a kid, he used to get up at like 4:35 in the morning. Why? Because everybody else was sleeping. And I do the same thing. It's like, whew, nobody's up.
I'm up at 5, and I'll tell you, 5 a.m. in Brooklyn is a magical experience, because you're in this city that quote unquote never sleeps. Yet
everything's
in
quiet.
My neighborhood, it's super quiet. There's not even crackheads out. The crackheads are sleeping. You can actually hear the birds and shit. Like it's good.
I do want to address.
Wait 1 second. Kevin Hart.
All right.
Kevin Hart said this wild thing, and I remember The Rock saying this. Kevin Hart says that he wakes up around 4 or 5. And it's like, why he wake up around 4 or 5? He was like, because the whole fucking house is quiet. And I wake up around that time. I go to the gym. I do whatever, and I could tell he was basically saying I have time with myself. You know what I mean? Me personally, I'm very big on me time. You know what I mean? You know, when I'm in a relationship or, you know, even when I'm working with people, it's nothing personal. I just need my fucking space. You know what I mean? Because I'm just always thinking, you know what I mean? You know, but The Rock said the same thing. He was like, he wakes up at that fucking time because nobody's around. He goes down this fucking gym. He works the fuck out. He runs through his day, you know what I mean, his mind and so on. Men, I believe, need solitude. Man cave. This is not man cave. Yeah, this is not to say that you can't live with another person. Again, if you want to live with another person, that's fine. It's on you. You know what I mean? But I do think that men do need some personal time to themselves in order to gather their thoughts.
So real quick, because he asked and Pop present there, I just want to say, so the reason we're saying China is finished. So right now, China is in their glory day as far as their demographics of people who are making the money right now, right? They're in their 40s and 50s. In the next 10 to 20 years, those people are going to be the older people that aren't producing anything, aren't bringing in any kind of income. And they had a one-child policy there for the longest time where people were having one child or less. Now, people, just like other Western countries, China went through a rapid expansion where they made people came into the middle class, and the more money you make, as we see in other countries, people start having less kids. Well, they already had a one-child policy. So, and not just that, most of the children were being males. People wanted males and not females. So there's that going too. So right now, they're in their heyday, but pretty soon it's going to be a huge amount of older people, not as many young people to support those older people. And it's past the point. It's really no reversing it. They're not going to be able to catch up. China is giving incentives to have more than one child now, but people, they know children, unless you have something for them to do, it's not profiting you have children. You have to spend money to have children. And so that's why everything's pointing to China. This is their heyday, but they are at their peak. And soon,
just imagine a town with, say, like 100 people in it, okay, and they're like in their 20s and 30s, and say only 20% of them, like 20 out of the 100, had children. Like the rest, all of them are going to age, and then those aged people have to rely on those 20 to take care of the rest of those aged people. All right. Now, those people, let's say those 20 children, they decide not to have kids. Now you've got an aging population that's about to die, and you have that 20%. They're now aging too, and no one's there to uphold the system. No one's there to fix the streets. No one's there to keep the lights on. No one's there to keep the gas flowing. Nothing. All the resources then start dwindling because you can't put an 80-year-old person on a fucking oil rig out in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
It just not going to happen.
And not just that, but another thing you got to realize, it's an authoritarian country. So they have an enormous amount of people, millionaires, that are leaving, going to the United States, going to Europe, going to places. So, and brain drains, because it's not efficient. The system, it's really bad. It's gotten a lot worse in the last 10 years as far as the way they've clamped down. So a lot of people are looking to exit. That's where the United States has the advantage, because people still want to come here, right? As bad as we think we have it here, there are still people that want to come here. So yeah, China has a lot of problems. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that. I know that's not exactly what we're talking about, but that is kind of my wheelhouse. I pay attention to geopolitics, and so I definitely like answering questions like that. Thanks for the question, though.
Anyway. One more thing, personally, overall though, I just think there's too many fucking people on the planet, period. There really just is. There's just too many fucking people here, man. You know, something's got to give. Something's got to tip over, and just people are just, you know, just having more and more and more fucking people, you know, and you know, that offsets a lot of things in regards to mass production has to increase because there's so many fucking people on the fucking planet. You know what I mean? You're pumping all these, you know what I mean, meats with all these chemicals and so on and so forth because you have to feed all these motherfuckers. You know, it's just too much. It's just too much. And this might be the thinning of the herd might be what our species needs. I'm just looking at it on a human level. You know what I mean? You know, that's one of the reasons why the premise of Thanos was such a brilliant premise, because it's just like, yeah, maybe half of you motherfuckers really need to go. You know, and you know, I'm not saying that jokingly. I'm just saying that it's just too much. Mm-hmm. And there has to come a time where, as we all just said, there's going to be a tipping point. There has to come a time where, okay, this has to go in reverse in order for this to go where it needs to go.
Well, that's already kind of sort of happening naturally when you look at the amount of men in the world and the amount of them that are going to procreate. Most guys are not going to procreate. Like, their genes are going to die with them. And that's just the reality of it. Like, I can't remember what the percentage is. Like 30% of guys are actually, like, in the world are going to procreate. And that's just what it is. Yeah, it's like, I can't remember where I read that and where I've seen it. Like, it's been repeated again and again, like on many sources. But yeah, like the population that we have now is due to a very, like, a small, like less than half of the male population created the population that we have now, like historically. So it's like, understand, like, and the problem is that it's social media. So we have this awareness of more of just like our little village. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's right. So like, we're aware of like this much larger structure that's going on. And you're like, holy shit, like, okay, yeah, I'm going to die and I'm just going to be completely forgotten. Like, there's no like echo of my existence. Right. And that's the reality for most guys, like more than half. And that's it. That's what it is, you know? But because there is just more than just your village, and you're able to talk and like reason and talk with other dudes and, you know, learn about women and guys and society and all that shit at such a large scale because of social media, it becomes extremely depressing. So that's why we have this rise of black pill, right? Where they're like, you know what? Fuck it. The whole thing is just fucked. I'm done. I'm ugly. I'm short. I'm poor. I'm sick. I'm, you know, physically debilitated. Like, it's over for me, right? Like when I was born. So like, fuck everything.
I think Jake Cavorsier said he was black pill.
No, yeah, a lot of red pillars are becoming black pillars. You know what I mean?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
it's like nihilism mixed with depression.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, a lot of these guys, well, a lot of these black red pillars, they became black pillars because they went out there. I guess they went and got all the stuff outside of the Bugatti or whatever the fuck, and they probably went to the gym, or they probably did all kinds of stupid shit or crazy shit, you know, and they thought that if they followed this algorithm,
they would
their lives would change. What's up?
Nope. That they if they follow the algorithm, they would become select.
Exactly. You know, and not understanding that it's much bigger than that. You know what I mean? That it's much more complex than that. And once they followed it and it didn't breed the results that they wanted, then it's like, fuck it. Like you said, then it was like, fuck it. It's all a ruse. These guys lied to us and blah, blah, blah. And the red pillars, those gurus, they hate the black pill because they can't make any money off of it. Because if you're like, fuck it, and you're on the ledge, there's you can't really make any money off of a guy who has no hope. So, you know, it's a shit show. It's a shit show.
You guys ever see that movie? I think it was from like the late 90s called Species. You ever see that movie Species? Yeah. And it was about the alien woman. Was it Natasha Henstridge or something like that? I think that's who it was. Wow. Yeah, I think it was like late 90s. And so it was this alien woman, and her alien like look was actually designed by H.R. Giger, the same guy who did the alien in Aliens, right? Yeah, he was that airbrush artist from
Yes.
I think Sweden or whatever. But anyway, so it's this alien woman, and she's here to like to procreate, right? So she wants to like spread her genes and stuff. And she was around all different kinds of guys, like player dudes and like really successful guys, and she could like smell something in them, like something about their genes, something in their makeup that you couldn't see. And she was like, nope. And not only nope, but she would end up like killing them because they just were not fit to mate with, right?
No.
And women have this. Women have this. They can smell loser. Like
That is
despite
funny.
you going to the gym, despite you getting some good job, despite you getting a haircut or whatever, or getting a fancy car or a nicer apartment or whatever, they can still smell loser inside the guys. And so no matter what you change on the outside, they can still pick up on that stuff. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's a little extreme in the movie where the dude, like the woman just, or the alien kills the guy because he's unfit for procreation. But you know, it might as well be death for some of these guys because, you know, they're like, oh my God, I was rejected. Black pill.
Like no saint. Remember I told you the guy online who blocked me, and he says he needs to get out of New York because he's sick of saying good morning to these women, and their response is suck my dick. You know what I mean? Get off my and I told him, I was like, well, they probably saw some bitch on you. Maybe that's why they said that, because New York women are like that. And then I wasn't really trying to be funny or facetious. I was being dead ass. I was like, New York women are like that. And he took a huge offense to it. And I was just basically telling him, putting him on the game, like, no, New York women, if they smell it on you, they'll respond in a certain way, man.
Well, any woman, not just New York.
Right.
Yeah, but I know, but
I was using New York women.
No, but I think there's something to the coastal women, both sides, that they pick up on things a little faster because they have so many people. You know, they're interacting with so many people.
But I'm saying, like, from a genetic level, women are conditioned to recognize loser, right? Because they don't want to mate with someone who is not fit to create offspring with.
Yeah. Yeah, that is funny though. That movie.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. I've got like a list of movies to show to my girl because like we have totally different tastes in terms of that. So yeah, I'm just typing that up right now. Species.
I mean, that's amazing. Just the premise that this alien is looking for a mate and just can smell, and then no, I'm gonna kill you because you're not.
And it was like really brutal shit. Like she had like a tongue that would like shoot through their skull or something like that.
I remember there was this one scene where she grabbed the guy's head. Where she grabbed the guy's head and she like threw him underwater. And then you saw her face started changing and shit like that.
Yeah.
And she was drowning the dude. That shit was some gangster shit.
Yeah, I think like she was kissing some guy, like tongue kissing him, and like she knew that he wasn't the guy, and she like used her tongue and like, you know, went down his throat and killed him or shot up.
I remember, you know what?
Something along those lines.
I remember that scene. I couldn't tell you what the movie was. You just now did, but you bringing that up, I remember probably one day looking through HBO or something and caught it or something. That part you're talking about, I do remember. So I don't remember the movie, but I do remember that scene.
Ex Monica reminds me of it in certain regards. Ex Monica reminds me of Species. You know what I mean? In certain regards.
Yeah, so Jen's talking about it. Jen just said, you know, she was with Adam Sosnick, and you know, he's got a lot of money, and just women can smell bitchiness. They can smell a pussy like underneath a man's balls. It's just waiting there.
Look, listen, there's nothing wrong with eugenics, man. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. If you leave it up to most guys, well, in the context of women wanting to mate with, we're not talking about Nazis. Okay, we're not talking about.
Okay.
Talking about in the context of women choosing the right partner and so on. There's nothing in it in that wrong with it in that regard. You know?
Yeah, I think that's kind of natural.
If you leave it up to us, men, men literally, most of us stick our dicks literally in a hole. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guys have no standards, so somebody's got to have fucking standards.
Makes me think of American Pie.
Dude, exactly. Like
with apple pie.
Like one of us has to have the standards in order to maintain the fucking strength of the species. But on that note, fellas, let's call it a night.
Let's call it a night. But thanks everybody for tuning. Thanks, Mr. Justin, once again. Where are you going? Where are you gonna be? Go ahead and shout it out again.
I was gonna stream at 11, but I was having so much fun with you guys that decided to
appreciate it.
It's always great having you around, man, Justin.
Yeah, I love having you. I definitely love talking with you, and I do want to go to your. I do want to go to when you do a stream, so I'm gonna
what I'm gonna do, because like a lot of my friends, they have call-ins, like they have like a soundboard and guys can call in and talk, and I figured why not do the same thing but with StreamYard, where like you just invite them up, and if they want to do video, they can do video. If they want to stay visually anonymous, that's fine, and they're allowed to ask a question, and after they're done with their question, they get brought back into the audience, right? And I think it'd be a very cool way to operate a show.
It sounds so it is on YouTube, your channel. Go ahead and say it again.
Yeah. It's called the Dominance Academy. And,
the Dominance Academy.
Yep, it's a relationship channel for men, and I do not talk about bashing women, even though some of my titles are like that. But that's just to suck the losers into the medicine.
No, it's been a great. I enjoy it. Yeah, check Mr. Justin out for sure. I definitely enjoyed this show today. That's why we went on probably a lot longer than I thought we were going to be on, be honest with you. Mm-hmm. It was a great talk. Good crowd. Thanks for all the comments. Next Sunday, we'll talk about it next Sunday. I know LSU's playing late games. Normally they play Saturday. This is opening kickoff though, so we may do it earlier. But we'll get something in for sure. But anyway, thanks, Mr. Haran. Thanks, Mr. Justin. Appreciate everybody being in here tonight. You all have a good night,
brothers.
All right, guys.